You left your drink. I make no promises. I'm Daria. I'm new to Providence as of June. I come fleeing various disasters in my life, which is basically how my life has gone for the last several years. If you see me on the street, I am friendly. I don't bite unless you ask nicely. Please introduce yourself. Anyway, so... Anyway, I have two cats. They are two delightful cats. I have Nip, who is my little black cat, and I'll tell you the story of Nip in a moment, and I have Tuck. And my late partner got a cat and left me Tuck. But, so their names, they have a story. When I lived in Pittsburgh 2 cities ago, and I was married, and my ex-wife and I went to a shelter in Ohio and picked up a cat. And on the way home, basically she's like, "Oh, he's the cutest little thing ever." She's showing me him in the cat carrier we had. And I didn't even, I looked, I didn't say anything. Totally used my cell phone while I was driving. I just didn't even look, just typed, handed her the phone, didn't look at it. And that was when we knew that our cat was going to be named Chessie. And it turns out there was this railroad advertising campaign in the 1930s where they had Chessie the railroad cat. So there was Chessie, and then Chessie had a husband named Peek. And then they had kittens named Nip and Tuck. So basically, Chessie came home from a shelter, and he was the friendliest cat ever. He was the greatest thing. Some amount of time later, we had come home, and our neighbors were these little old ladies in this alley we lived in. And they were like, "Oh, your cat got out. We totally saw your cat outside." "I don't think so." "Little gray cat, yeah, totally yours." Okay, whatever. Get home, go the rest of the way down the block. And I look, and they said, "Oh yeah, he's hiding under your window." And I shine my cell phone there, and it's like, got cat eyes, like the cat eyes are reflecting, and this cat just bolts and runs away. It's like, holy shit, but it's not my cat. It's not my cat. So I feed this cat, and the food keeps disappearing, and I never see the cat. But I borrow a trap from a friend, and I put it out, and we catch this little itty bitty teeny tiny cat that is the scaredest thing ever. And I go to the vet, and I take it in, and they're bracing me for, "Oh, this is gonna be the most unfriendliest cat ever. It's gonna bite, it's gonna all be horrible." And the cat comes out and is totally cuddling the vet. It's like, "Oh?" So they check out the cat, and the cat's fine. They get to take out this cat, they build this pen, and because we have to keep the cat away until we know if he has she has feline leukemia. She doesn't. And so I need a name for this cat. And this cat, sadly, is the dumbest thing ever. Because, she's, the best story I can tell about this cat is, she's trying to hide. She's hiding behind a pole. And she's trying desperately to hide, and she's just like, "Mew, mew, mew." That's not how hiding works. She has this massive scar under her neck because, anyway, she lived. She was the greatest thing ever, but she totally hated humans, so she bonded with the other cat, but would totally hide from all the people. So we named her Peek because, name scheme, Chessie had Peek. Well, some more time passes, and we see this other cat outside that sort of looks like could be Peek's sibling. And Peek was feral. So we put out the trap again. That's what could possibly go wrong here? Anyway, long time ago, just a segue for a moment, long time ago, I grew up as if I was not this sex. And I spent a long time in my life in denial about who I was. Sure, I can totally do this. You know what? It'll be fine. 4 years of wrong sex Catholic high school, what could go wrong? So, around this time of life, I had lunch with a friend of mine. I was newly 40 years old, and it was somebody that I had gone to college with. And after lunch, they pulled me aside and they told me a story. And it's like, I know this story because the story is mine, and you've made it to my age and you haven't been able to grapple with this. And you're coming out and you're becoming your authentic self. Well, this was the same day that I set up this trap for this kitten that I thought was the sibling of our second cat, Pete. And I get home after having this lunch and this hour-and-a-half conversation with a long walk across half of the academic neighborhood that in Pittsburgh where like three of the universities are. I get home and the trap is spread. I go back and look, and this cat is nothing at all like Pete. Chessie was basically a gray cat with tan stripes. Pete was gray and white. Well, this cat was a black cat. Looked nothing like any other cats. But he was the friendliest thing ever. It's like, this is very clearly somebody's cat. Somebody lost their cat. So I checked with all the neighbors. I go online and I post in the neighborhood Facebook group. I do all the things I can do. It's like, this is somebody's cat. Somebody's got to be missing their cat. Somebody's got to love this cat because he's the greatest thing ever. No, nobody is. So I take him to the vet and I get them to scan for a chip. It doesn't have a chip. It has nothing. So I'm still married at this point, and I asked my wife, can we take in another cat? And she's kind of like, nah. Which is weird because she was the one that was giving me shit because we didn't have a cat for the longest time. And it's like, I'm bringing a cat home, and she's like, nah. So we get this other cat. It turns out Chessie and Pete and the railroad advertising campaign had kittens, Nip and Tug. Pretty obvious, he's Nip. So, little black cat, cutest thing ever. I'm going through all my shit. I'm a trans woman. Well, I'm a trans envy, but I'm a trans woman. And it turns out, all trans women have familiar spirits. Well, not all of us, but most of us. So I've got a little black cat, right? Suddenly I've got this little black cat who has adopted me. Clearly I have been blessed and it is time for me to transition because, my familiar spirit found me. It just literally came down my alley. Pretty sure he was abandoned by the college students of the other end of the alley, but whatever. My familiar spirit found me in my good time. It was clearly my time to transition, so I had to do this thing. I didn't realize it was gonna, deep six my marriage, but whatever. I already had one failed marriage behind me. It was a second. So he comes home, and we introduce him to the other cats, and it turns out he's rambunctious and adventurous because he's a little youngin', and the other two are like old and cranky, like, can you just fucking leave us alone? We're tired now. We don't want to do this. We don't want you to chase us around. Go away. But it is what it is. So my marriage, as it turns out, makes it another year and a half, and then basically falls on its face really hard. And at the same time, my job isn't paying me, so I end up homeless for a few months. And not unhoused, just didn't have a place that was mine. And I moved to Boston. And it was horrible. So, I moved there. I stay in a friend's spare bedroom for a month because I still don't have anywhere to live. But I move into an apartment, and as soon as I get my shit in, I go back to Pittsburgh and I bring my cat back. Of course, perhaps telling me I go back to Pittsburgh for a funeral because that's how life works. And I bring back my cat. I'm driving to Boston. And I've got him in a cat carrier because, I don't know if he's going to get out of the car. I'm going to have to get out and pee and stuff. And, the last thing I want is my cat bolting. And it turns out he's always skittish as hell. He ran and hid under my neighbor's deck for a week and a half. And I had to, go outside and sit on the ground to just coax him out. He was the timidest little thing. I have this collar on him that you can basically make noise so that I could find him whenever he was missing. Because it happened 3 times. He went and hid under my neighbor's deck. It was just did you run away? Did you die? Did something horrible happen? What the hell, man? Just come home, I miss you. So I get partway. I'm driving between Pittsburgh and Boston. I get as far as Penn State, and I have this problem, which was endemic to my entire time in Boston. I love ice cream. I went to Carnegie Mellon, so I don't have any particular love for Penn State like that, but they have this creamery and their ice cream is fantastic, and I have a problem, right? I have many problems, but that is a particular problem I have. So I went in and got ice cream, Whenever I came out, it's like, I'm gonna be in the car for like, another 5 hours or something like that. Fuck it, I unzip the cat carrier and let him run around the car with me with like however many of my belongings would fit in it. And he's doing great. He's sitting up there beside me in the passenger seat, and he's like having a great old time. And then it turns out this storm front comes through, and he's not having it. Like there's these claps of thunder and flashes of lightning, and he's just not having it. He goes and hides under my stuff in the back. He's like, oh God, oh God, oh God. I don't see him again until I ended up having to divert because there was an accident. It ended up taking me something like 7 hours to get the rest of the way home. And I have to like dig him out of the back of the car. He's hiding under my laundry or something. I don't even know where the hell he was hiding, but he was hiding in the back. I had to coax him to come inside. And he comes inside, and he immediately gets this like, what the fuck did you do to me? Because it turns out my housemate has 3 cats. 3 cats, all girls, all sisters. And he's like, what the fuck did you do to me, bitch? What the fuck did you do to me? So they don't, he never gets along great with my housemate's cats. But eventually, like, they reach this state of detente where the best way I can represent it, and I didn't share the picture sadly, I have a picture of him on my housemate's bed. So there's her 3 cats right on one side, and him on the other side facing the other way. And it's like, this summarizes everything about this relationship. Them and him. But like, it's fine. He makes it through his time there. And after a year, my lease is up and I moved to the other side of Somerville. I lived in Somerville, Massachusetts. So I lived in East Somerville for the first year. And then the second year, I moved to West Somerville, to near Teal Square. And I'm in this apartment. And now he's gone back into a space that has 2 floors. But he's really not happy about this move because he finally adapted to this place where when he showed up, he lived under my dresser in a space about this high for the first week. So when I go to move him across Somerville, he figures out how to escape from his cat carrier, puts his paw out, unzips the thing, and then runs away and hides under my housemate's bed. And her cats are there like, I'm going under the bed with a flashlight and shit, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? So anyway, I use a broom and try to chase him out. I can't get him to come out. He's just hiding under there. It's like, you didn't like it here. What the hell, man? You didn't even like it here. You don't like them. I'm trying to take you somewhere else where you're going to be alone. And so I finally get him out. And I'm putting him in the cat carrier again, and he's not really interested in it. He pisses all over he's just pisses right down in front of me. And it's like, all right, this is how this is gonna go. I get it, I got it. But I drive him, and it's like, maybe a 15-minute drive to go from one side of Somerville to the other. I take him inside, and I let him out in the bedroom, and he immediately finds the dresser again, the same dresser he lived under for the first week that he was there in the first place, and he hides under there, and it's like, I don't see him again for another week. It's like, okay, got it. This is a thing with you. You're basically just gonna live under that dresser here. So, my partner that I lived with at the time had a bunch of health issues and ended up coming out of the hospital at one point, and she had decided she was gonna adopt a cat. So we went to an animal shelter, and her sister and sister-in-law basically said, we'll buy you a cat. And we bring home this kitten, and she's like the cutest little thing ever. And I'm worried because the last time he had to adapt to new cats, he wasn't having it. But we let them sniff at each other under a door, and they seem like they're doing fine. And we open the door, and hot damn, they do. It's like, that's the best thing ever. And my partner says, you know what, I'm gonna name her Tuck because you have Nip and she's gonna be Tuck. And so I ended up with Nip and Tuck. Aww. And people occasionally are like, it's because you had plastic surgery. Nope, it has nothing to do with I had plastic surgery. I had a lot of plastic surgery. But nothing to do with that. So they're Nip and Tuck because they're Nip and Tuck the railroad kittens. So as it turns out, my partner died in January, and I needed to not live in Boston anymore, which is what brought me to this fine city. And I love it here. It's fantastic. I'm not being at all sarcastic. This is a fantastic place to have ended up, and so
get it, girl.
I love it here. It's great. Anyway, I live in this I live in an apartment in a 1875 Victorian mansion. I got them here. I drove back and forth with my belongings for several weeks to move here. And on the trip where finally things had gotten far enough along, where I was willing to bring them because I knew that I wasn't gonna have to open the door too many times and potentially let them out into the rest of the building. So I got them into the cat carriers, the two of them. I got them here, and it's like, I set up the litter box in the bathroom. I figured this is gonna be safe. No matter what, they're not gonna get pissed and pee all over me or my clothes or anything like that. It'll all be fine. So I take them to the bathroom. I've got their food, I've got the litter box. So there's just one problem. I live in an 1875 Victorian mansion. And like most buildings that age, it has problems. So I live in a construction zone. Things like the first month I lived there, I didn't have a bed because it turned out my ceiling leaked. And instead of having a bed, I had a mattress pad that I slept on the floor. And in the morning, I moved it out of the way in case today was the day that the roof got fixed. Spoiler, it wasn't. But whatever. So, among the other things that isn't fixed yet, we have a bathtub that's not plumbed in yet, and it doesn't have a surround around it. And there's a hole in the floor where the sewer is gonna go. There's a hole in the floor where the sewer is gonna go. You might have thought that maybe I might have thought ahead about this, but I did not. So, for the first several days, the cats lived in Providence. They lived in the floor between my apartment and my downstairs neighbor's ceiling. And I desperately hoped that they did not get out of that or go down into the wall or anything like that, because as it turned out, I mentioned before, I have 2 failed marriages behind me. In the first failed marriage, I actually had a pet go down in the floor. It was a hamster. And I can tell you that I have rescued a pet from the floor. It involved a jigsaw. It involved cutting several holes in the floor. It involved a whole lot of work. And the floor did not get fixed in that house for 5 years after that because I had enough of that shit. And I was like, just gonna put a piece of cardboard over it and forget about it. Just gonna put a piece of cardboard over it and forget about it. So I was like, I hope desperately that they do not go down in the wall, because turns out fixing the plaster in an 1875 mansion a little more expensive than fixing the floor in a 1922 house. Anyway, eventually they came out of the floor, and I live in a place with, a nice turret, and stained glass windows and fantastic stuff like that. And they have the run of the place, and it's fantastic, and it's just wonderful having them around. And so, I don't know if there's a happily ever after for them or for me, but if there is, they seem to have theirs right now. And what can I tell you? The cats that bumble into your life by wandering down the alley, or by being in a shelter at the right time, whenever you're looking, take them home with you, because they're going to be a special part of your life.